Hello, I'm Kathy Mayer, and I'm an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion at one of our local health centers. I've been doing this for about 13 years. I'm humbled to be involved in this ministry and often tell the grateful residents that at times I feel like I'm the person being rewarded. This will become evident in the circumstance I will relate to you. At this facility, we are provided with a list of Catholic residents to distribute communion to. Prior to entering a room, we verify the person's name on the plaque outside the door, because sometimes the list has not been updated for people who have left the facility or have been moved to another room. When doing so, I discovered that the person I was supposed to visit was indeed not in the room. But I did recognize the name of the person on the plaque, a former coworker with whom over the years I had many clashes with, let's say strong differences of opinion. I didn't know what to do, so continued on my way to visit the other Catholic residents in the facility. When leaving the facility, I had to pass by the individual's room again and noticed that he had a visitor, so I did not stop in. Actually, I was relieved that he had a visitor, so now I had an excuse not to visit him, so I went home. The next month, this individual was still on my mind, but when I visited the facility, he was no longer there. Several months passed, and then on another of my scheduled visits, when returning to the room where the resident was not available on my first pass through the facility, I turned and looked at the plaque by the door across the hall. I don't recall why I did that, since that's not something I usually do. Perhaps I heard his voice. So once again, I had this dilemma, to visit with him or not. It seemed as though I stood in the hallway for seconds, though probably it wasn't that long. I came to the conclusion that God wanted me to visit with him. So I knocked on his door and introduced myself. People often mention that I have a recognizable voice, and he indeed recognized mine and invited me in. He was sitting in a wheelchair with his back to the door. I told him my reason for being at the facility. He then informed me that he had been raised Catholic, but he had not been practicing for many years. I stated that I would not be able to distribute communion to him, but asked if he would like to pray the Our Father. He agreed to do so, and so we prayed together. At that time, there was a retired priest who was living at the facility. I asked if he would like to speak with the priest, and he agreed, and I later learned, in fact, that the two did speak. It had been years since we had seen each other, and we caught up with each other. Our differences were always work-related, and therefore no longer mattered to us. Thus, the air was cleared. That was the last time I saw my former coworker. He passed away shortly thereafter, but for me the meeting was very cathartic. I spoke with his daughter afterward, who stated that her dad always believed in God and that he wanted to be buried by the church. His requests were met. I feel that he and I were meant to resolve our differences, and that, as his daughter stated, I perhaps gave him the nudge he needed to feel comfortable in talking with a priest and then being able to be buried by the church. In summary, it's important to mention that Jesus was in our midst as I was carrying consecrated hosts, and I believe he guided me. One never knows why we are in a certain place at a certain time, but I do believe that I was meant to be there.